Hello to everyone. My name is Christoph Hagen, and I would like to present research that has been conducted at the University of Würzburg by Christoph Sendner, Alexandra, Dmitrienko, and myself in collaboration with Weinert and Schneider at the Technical University of Darmstadt. Our research focuses on the potential abuse of contact discovery in mobile messengers. Contact discovery is an essential feature for mobile messengers because it allows users to conveniently discover which of their contacts are also registered with the service. Unfortunately, this involves transmitting the contacts of the user to the server, where they are exposed to a curious service provider, governments enforcing access to the server, or also any malicious attacker who compromises the server. And the leakage of social graphs is concerning because they can be used to infer very intimate details about users, ranging from sexual orientation, political views, also to financial status and private interests. Service providers usually try to mitigate this problem by using hash-based contact discovery protocols, where instead of transmitting the phone numbers in the clear, they are cryptographically hashed and only the hashes are compared. Unfortunately, there's a consensus that mobile phone number entropy is probably not sufficient to provide adequate protection here. And the second problem associated with contact discovery is the fact that this API essentially provides any registered user with the ability to query for information about all other registered users. And attackers can use this to simply enumerate over the phone number space and then harvest user data. And our research focuses on both of these problems by, on the one hand, showing that data crawling of popular messengers is actually doable with very little resources, which allowed us to find millions of US WhatsApp and Signal accounts. We also, in our paper, provide interesting cross-messenger usage statistics and investigate the leakage of private information over these contact discovery APIs. And we also present mitigations in our paper, and especially interesting here is a new construction for effective data scraping protection without the need for server-side contact storage. And regarding the problem of curious servers and the leakage of social graphs, we provide evidence that the hash reversal of mobile phone number hashes can actually be trivially done on consumer hardware in milliseconds. The reason why cryptographic hashing is used in contact discovery is that it's generally difficult to infer the original input from a given hash, which is based on the assumption that the entropy of the input is high. Unfortunately, there is evidence that the mobile phone number space isn't large enough to prevent preimage attacks, where you simply iterate over the input domain and then find the corresponding input to a given hash. And this has already been stated years ago, for example, by the co-founder of Signal. And in our paper, we provide evidence that the mobile phone number space worldwide is actually only 37 bits of entropy. And we come to this conclusion by looking at the database of the International Telecommunications Union, but also by simply trying which numbers can be registered, for example, with a service like WhatsApp. And we wanted to move beyond just the theoretical assumptions here and provide concrete practical evidence of hash reversal. So we perform 3 different types of hash reversal. The first is a brute force attempt using Hashcat on our computing cluster, which actually shows that compared to the theoretical hash rate of the system, the effective hash rate for the phone number problem is actually significantly lower. But despite this slowdown, we actually still able to achieve a 57 millisecond lookup time for batches of 1 million hashes. Our second approach relies on a hash database, which is a cluster of in-memory Redis databases for which we store a subset of all mobile phone number hashes and achieve lookup times of only 0.1 milliseconds. Our third approach is based on rainbow tables, which are generally used for password cracking. And we optimize these for non-uniform input domains by providing a specialized reduction function that can map a hash back to a valid phone number. And using this construction, we can achieve a rainbow table of only 24 gigabytes in size, which achieves 52 milliseconds of lookup time and 99.99% hit rate. And compared to traditional rainbow tables, this is actually a 1,000-fold performance increase. Concluding from all of these experiments, we are confident to say that naive hashing of mobile phone numbers for private contact discovery actually provides no privacy gains. Moving on to the second problem of contact discovery, which is the possibility of attackers to enumerate the phone number space and then harvest user data. We expect that since this is a known problem, that service providers perform strict rate limiting on this contact discovery API, and we also expect them to provide as little information as possible in return to requests. And for services that store the user's contacts on the server, we would also expect them to monitor them for changes so that enumerating attackers can effectively be detected. And we investigate 3 different messengers in the form of WhatsApp and Telegram, which store the contacts on the server, and Signal, which doesn't. To facilitate our crawling, we provide a crawling infrastructure which is actually very low budget and only involves some engineering effort. And we also explicitly designed it so that statistics are directly generated and that there's no user data actually stored on our system. And running these crawlers for several weeks allows us then to estimate the rate limits of the different messengers and also allows us to generate these usage statistics. And we find that the rate limits for WhatsApp are actually 60,000 contacts per day that we can check, and for Signal it's 200,000. The reason why Signal has higher limits here is that since they don't store the user's contacts, they have no way of enforcing stricter rate limits for users that frequently change their contacts. Telegram here provides much stricter rate limits in the form of 5,000 contacts in total, plus 100 contacts per day once this limit is reached. I would also like to note here that both WhatsApp and Signal, in response to our responsible disclosure, severely limited the previous rate limits. Running these crawlers allowed us to actually check the whole US mobile phone number space for Signal and 10% of the space for WhatsApp, which in turn allowed us to find 5 million WhatsApp users in the US and 2.5 million Signal users. And these enumeration attacks have been performed in the past, but we're the first to show concrete evidence of countrywide crawling on popular mobile messengers. We also perform a privacy evaluation of each of the messengers to see how much information about users is accessible through this contact discovery interface. And we find that Signal exposes almost no information about registered accounts, while WhatsApp, on the other hand, offers the ability to retrieve public profile pictures, the online and last online status, and also the custom about texts of users. Telegram performs even worse because it actually allows you to access up to 100 profile pictures per user, plus also additional possibly privacy sensitive information such as common groups. And additionally, it also is problematic because it even exposes information about numbers which are not registered with Telegram. And this is done through something called an import account, which essentially tells you how many other Telegram users have imported the same number into their contacts. And we find that numbers with a non-zero import account are actually twice as likely to be registered on WhatsApp than any other random phone number. The positive thing about Telegram is that it is the only service in our investigation that allows users to first use alternative identifiers for discovery and also to opt out of being found through their phone number. Our paper also provides some interesting cross-messenger usage statistics, such as the relative popularity of WhatsApp and Signal in different US states. And in addition to the attacks and the conclusions we draw from there, we also propose mitigations in our paper. And here I would like to focus on first the problem of hash reversal, which indicates that hash-based contact discovery protocols are insecure and necessitates the usage of private set intersection protocols to protect the user's contacts from a curious server. Unfortunately, the reality is that current private set intersection protocols are simply not scalable to sets of billions of users due to their high performance overhead. On the other hand, enumeration attacks can simply be prevented by stricter rate limits, which is easy to do for services that store the user's contacts on the server, because it's simply about observing frequent changes to the user's contacts. For services that don't store the user's contacts, such as Signal, it's much more difficult to perform adaptive rate limiting, because there's no metadata available telling you which of the users are frequently changing their inputs to the contact discovery protocol. And this presents an interesting trade-off between the usage of PSI protocols, which hide metadata, and the need of metadata for effective rate limiting. And this is the reason why we propose our incremental contact discovery scheme, which can effectively prevent enumeration attacks while also allowing the usage of private set intersection protocols. And this is done in a very straightforward way by initially intersecting the user's contacts with the set of all registered users on the service. And if we can then assume that the server set of registered users changes only slowly, then we can move these changes into a separate set and allow the user to update the state of his contacts by intersecting with this set of changes. And since then, the need to synchronize with the set of all registered users drops significantly in frequency, we can then enforce much stricter rate limits on the set of all registered users, which slows down enumerating attackers. And on the other hand, the update to the rate limits for this set of changes can be the same as before, because the probability that you actually find a user in the set of changes is much lower because the set is much smaller. So putting this all together, we can say that our construction is actually transparent to users with normal usage patterns, while also being compatible with private set intersection protocols. And it's also privacy preserving in the sense that it doesn't leak any additional metadata about the users. And we can perform much stricter rate limiting for realistic change rates, while also having minimal additional overhead and being very configurable and extendable. So concluding, I would like to say that our research highlights significant problems with the usage of cryptographic hashing for private contact discovery, because the phone number entropy is simply too low. And on the other hand, we also show that enumeration attacks on mobile messengers are still quite relevant. We also highlight the interesting trade-off between the usage of private contact discovery protocols and the ability to perform effective rate limiting. And lastly, I would like to stress that it's absolutely needed for both service providers and users to limit the amount of information that's available through these contact discovery APIs. And we encourage all users to inspect their privacy settings to limit the amount of private information that's being exposed. And with that, I would like to thank everyone for their attention and conclude my talk.